All right, folks. Hope everybody had a happy new year and a good Christmas with their families. I know I did. Sure did enjoy it. Enjoyed the break. I know I've been off here for a little bit. Want to get back after it. I put some posts out there to kind of keep y'all updated on the news and just put the stuff out there on the latest stuff happening with the Gators, Billy Napier, and the team. Obviously, we've had a ton of departures. I can't even remember all the names. The two recent ones that really hurt the most, Ethan White and Michael Tarquin. White, I don't know if he's found a home yet, but Tarquin's at USC. A lot of our guys landed at D1 schools. Hope they wish them success. Hope they do well. Obviously, I wish several of those guys had stayed for depth and experience. Florida's hurting. We're definitely in a long-term rebuild here. My expectations are much lower for next year, although I think we're going to get some decent guys in the portal and be competitive still. I think next year's expectations, this last year I predicted 8 wins. 8 wins were right there for the taking. Should have been an 8 win season. I think coaching brought us back down to six. But next year I'm going to be expecting 6 wins as of right now. That could change with more additions. Um, but let's just get into it. So, like I said, a lot of departures. This roster is super thin at almost every position. We need to almost add a player at every spot on the roster. Running back, I feel really good about. Just depth is terrible there. We need another guy to come in. Probably going to take a guy from like the FCS level. I heard UWF, which is my stomping ground over here around Pensacola. There's a back there that they're looking at. A guy that can come in and develop. Maybe a guy with 2 years eligibility left. So don't know any big names there, but definitely a guy that's doesn't mind coming in and competing and being a rotational guy, maybe third string. Obviously, at this point, they would be third string. Um, but somebody who can contribute maybe next year more. So when Montrell goes to the NFL, because there's no doubt he's gone next year and going to get a chance to play there in the league. Um, Another thing I just want to say, the guy on the Bills, can't think of his name right now, but went down. My prayers are with him. You never want to see anything like that. Football's a violent game. I think it was just something that was just bad timing with everything with his heart, and I hope that he heals well and recovers, and I pray for his team and his family. Um, but anyway, I just want to put that out there that I was thinking about that guy. That was heart wrenching watching that last night unfold. Life is precious and short, and we all need to treat each other with respect and be there for one another. But anyway, so running back, tight end. I don't know why they're not looking for anybody. I guess we're not there in the room. I guess Napier's happier with what we have. We did have Livingston that gray shirted. He is going to be in there in the spring, enrolled in classes come here in a few days. So we do have bodies there, but a lot of injuries, not a lot of talent. But heck, tight end wasn't really involved much. Keon Zipper will be back next year. I actually think I look for him to have a big year. I think he will break out. I think the tight end will be more involved in the offense next year. I would expect it to be. If it's not, that's concerning. But I do think they do get the tight end in the passing game more. Keon's really flashed this past year. He had some flashes. I think the kid's a baller and a gamer. Shows up on game day and has a big year. I really, really wish we would take a tight end in the portal, though. We need somebody there bad with a little more talent. Definitely lost some guys there. Nobody that was a solid. We need a big body there. 6'5", somebody real tall that can block, pass block, get out there and get physical in the passing game. Offensive line, we need two guys badly, obviously, just to replace what we lost. I think there's some depth there. Not depth, but I think there's some guys there that have high ceilings, like Cameron Waits. Um, I know the bowl game didn't look well, but hey, that was just reps and experience for these guys. I do think the offensive line will be good if we can fill it in. There's a Baylor guy, offensive lineman, that's visiting. I can't even say his name, Mazuka or Makuza or something like that. Um, he's a realistic target. I think the Florida lands on the offensive line for tackle on the right side. Austin Barber will probably kick out to the left, or vice versa. I'm not sure, but um, you're going to have those two guys, and then guard, Richie Leonard. Got Kingsley, who struggled at times, but has done well also at other times. So, offensive line, I think, can be worked out. Get a couple transfers there. We need guys that were productive, big time producers for big schools because this line is going to have to greatly step up next year in the run game, the pass game, in order to keep Mertz upright for us to have any chance at being successful. Because Mertz is not going to be able to do it on his own. He's a game manager at best. Um, just wasn't productive at Wisconsin. I'm not even gonna get into the. I want to keep this positive. I hope Mertz comes in and I hope he's successful. Hope he does well. But there's so much data and years out there with him at Wisconsin that I just don't see it. AR with the talent that he had, we couldn't get more than what we did out of him. I don't see Mertz as a lesser version, without the running ability, of AR. So quarterback scares me. People are saying Rashada. I put a survey out there the other day. I wish this staff would reconsider and still take another quarterback. We need somebody. We need an upgrade at that position. That room looks awful on paper right now. Um, you just look at it. You got Rashada coming in, and at first I would have called for him to start. That kid's got to gain 25 pounds. Reports out of the All-Star game is that he's done really well. He does struggle outside the pocket and throwing on the move. So I don't think he's ready to actually start day one. I think maybe by mid to the end of the year, it's Rashada. But again, 20 to 25 pounds on that slender frame. He's 175 pounds at 6'4". He'll get broken, man. That's like Felipe Franks when he came in. He kind of reminds me of him, but more talented, throwing the ball. But if he can get his game to at least that level, I can see him playing next year towards the middle end of the year. But that's a lot of weight to gain over a short period of time. So I just don't see him as a viable option until towards the end of the year. So that leaves us with the other guys. There's some video out there of Max Brown putting in work. I kind of maybe am hoping that maybe he takes a big, big step up and competes for that job. Maybe shocks everybody and comes in. I think that's all we can really hope for at this point. Or Billy taking another guy in the portal. But he came out and he said, I'm taking a walk-on and a scholarship guy. Well, he got the walk-on from IMG. I like that kid too, man. You never know. You've got a guy out there like Stetson Bennett. This kid's got some game like that, got some moxie to him, can scramble, throw on the run. Kind of reminds me of like a poor man's Will Greer. But we'll just have to see how it goes. Quarterback room definitely disappointing, but we got bodies there, so we'll just see how that plays out. I'm sure somebody will come in and be, reasonably productive. I don't see this offense putting up big numbers, but I hope the passing game develops. Some other stuff out there, like I said, there's some guys visiting. Not going to throw names out there. Florida wants to keep that hush-hush. You see what's been happening when we put a name out there. Miami comes in. They're going off our evaluations, and they try to outbid us. And I think Florida's wised up on that, and they're starting to move a little faster in the portal, which I'm happy to see. Now that the games are over, they're done evaluating. They're starting to get some names out. Several guys are supposed to visit this weekend. Like I said, these are kind of secret visitors. Hopefully these are some more defensive line, linebacker, offensive linemen. Linebacker, or let's start with defensive line. Defensive line, we got Cameron Jackson, stud. This was a massive land for depth, and this is a day one starter at defensive tackle for the Gators next year. Big plug-and-play guy, very productive at Memphis. Had a lot of offers coming out of high school. All the big schools were after him. A little underrated, I think, coming out of high school, obviously, because you see his talent now. He's over 300 pounds. We've got some beef on the defensive line. So I look for that defense to improve next year along the front. This helps everybody play at their true position. McClellan at tackle, your other guys, Boone and Sapp at defensive end and rush. So this really moves you Million at rush in. Guys don't have to play out of position. This really is a big pickup for Florida. I can't state that enough. Let's move to linebacker. So linebacker, we see how untalented and thin that room is. It's super undersized. We just picked up a guy, Tejada Mitchell out of Ohio State. He's a depth piece, but this roster needs that. He was a talented guy coming out of high school, 4-star, 9.7 ranking out of Virginia, top 50 recruit. So the talent's there, potential's there. But he was at Ohio State for a few years, never really did anything. Had one good season in 21, 45 tackles, a couple sacks, a couple quarterback hurries. But again, a little underwhelming of a pickup, if you ask me. That room needed a major talent upgrade. He does have the size, though. He is a good run stopper. But he's an average player, probably coming in more as like a Ventrell Miller, leader of the defense, Bernie Miller type talent. So again, a guy that just comes in and fills a need on the roster. Probably does start for us because that room is just really underwhelming at this point. But, I think that's a decent pickup. Again, we got to fill these spots. We had a need there. He did come from a proven school, and he just was outplayed. He was a reserve backup linebacker, so he did lose his starting job. But I think at Florida he starts. I mean, this roster is not Ohio State's roster right now, so I do think he comes in and starts. DB, I'm not worried about DB. I mean, we got Jakeem Jackson, who's better than Kermani McLean in my opinion. Um, Looking at the Under Armour All American game, he's killing it out there. He's looked like the best DB in the country. So DB, we're loaded. I am not worried about DB at all. I'm making a prediction now. Kelby Collins comes in and plays day one at Florida. I mean, so I think the defensive line and DB is actually going to be a strength to the defense. I do think his defense is going to be very young and inexperienced next year, but I actually think the defense improves from this past year. I mean, what can you do? You can't get worse than what we had last year. It was the worst defense in the country for the most part, and actually regressed from 2021. So I actually think the defense does take a pretty substantial step up and improves quite a bit. In DB play, defensive line, I think the corner set. I think there's enough talent with the young guys and what we have coming back on those spots. We do need a little more depth at defensive line, so we need another D tackle or another edge guy, preferably another edge at this point, even another D tackle. I mean, realistically, Florida needs 10 more bodies on this roster. Don't worry about the 85. That doesn't have to be under that number until the fall. So we need 10 bodies. Like I said, we picked up Caleb Banks, which I think has massive upside. I do think that was a good pickup in the portal. So really two out of the four takes so far, I say, were really good pickups, and two really bad pickups. One okay, I'd give one a 5. Mertz, I'd give a 0 on a scale of 1 to 10. I think that was a terrible take. But Tajada, I think I'd give him a 5. I think that was a good take. And then the defensive linemen, I think, were excellent takes. So the defense takes a step up next year. Any other news out there? Let's see. High school guys. I think if Florida doesn't get a back in the portal, we go the high school route on the running back position. I think this class is pretty much done, but I could see us throwing an offer out there and maybe taking 2 more guys come National Signing Day in February. I think Florida signs 1 to 2 more high school players if there's somebody talented enough that they're interested in, they want to come to Florida. Um, One guy, Caden Jones, crystal ball picked to UF. I'm predicting UF on this. Another really good body, 6'5", 300 something, 315, I think. So really big guy there. He announces this weekend at the Under Armour All American game. I think that's January 7th. I might have the dates wrong, but he's announcing then. So the pick is Florida there. So that's another body in the class, high level 3-star guy. He's a developmental prospect, so it's going to take some time. Don't look for him to contribute until next year, come 2024 as a redshirt freshman. But definitely has the potential there. Haven't heard much out of camp about him, how he's done this week. Florida has like 10 guys at the Under Armour All-American game. We have the most recruits at that game of any team. Everybody I've heard has performed well. Another development coming out is Will Norman. Was an underwhelming take at first. Low 4-star guy. I actually thought it was a good pickup. I liked him as a prospect. He transferred out of IMG to New Jersey, but he has dominated, guys. Dominated at the All-American game and has the size. I think he comes in first year and is able to get in the rotation as the season goes on. So that's another body right there that, basically takes a little pressure off of the need at the portal. But everybody's performed well. Jakeem Jackson's balling out. Sharif Denson's had a good week. I think he could come in and play some nickelback at Florida. And guys, a lot of these freshmen are going to contribute early, I think. But all 10 of these guys, Kanaji Harris needs a little work. I heard he's kind of been 50-50 on his reps. John Walker, who we all know we wanted, went to UCF, dominated Kanaji in most reps. But Kanaji did hold him out. These reps are slanted towards the defensive lineman. I mean, offensive lineman can't engage and hold forever. So I watched a couple of those reps that they gave to Walker. To me, were just a 50-50 split or even an edge to Kanaji on some of them because he held him long enough in a real game that it was a solid block. So, yeah, Florida's recruits are just absolutely showing out at this camp. Those are the guys that I've heard the most about. A lot of guys in this class are injured or hurt, which is a little disappointing. But they're recovering from injury, so a lot of them aren't even playing in the game or practices. Again, Rashada, there's 4 quarterbacks there. I think he's been about the second or third best quarterback at the camp so far, coming from reports. His biggest knock is just like I said, not being able to throw on the move and struggling when he gets outside the pocket with accuracy. That's going to take time. At the college level, that'll develop and he'll get better with that. Um, like I said, though, that kid's got a long way to go before he sees the field. So I wouldn't. Everybody talking about him playing day one might want to hang that up. Honestly, like I said, the weight gain that he needs is very substantial. If y'all look him up, check out Under Armour All American Game and look up some of the Twitter videos of Rashada. I mean, the kid is a rail. I mean, he looks athletic and throws a pretty ball. Has the strongest arm in the country. That's what everybody raves about is his arm strength. We're familiar with that type of stuff with Felipe, but I think he's better. I'm not saying he's Felipe Franks. He's better than him, in my opinion. But kind of similar. Felipe was less than 200 pounds coming into Florida, very scrawny. So he's just going to have to put some weight on. But I'm super excited about him. Jack Miller, I just don't see him contributing at Florida. That bowl game and what he, couldn't get on the field at Ohio State. If they get the right pieces around him, I wouldn't completely count him out, but I just don't think he's the day one starter. I will say this. Okay, so Mertz at Wisconsin, the offense was a little different than Florida. It didn't really fit his strengths super well. They did run the ball most of the time, which is what's concerning to me about the sacks. Wisconsin's usually known for, big offensive linemen, but a lot of pressures on him. He didn't do a good job managing that or escaping pressure with his legs. So he was running for his life half the time. He does make a lot of bad decisions, bad throws into double, triple coverage, relies on his arm too much, a little bit of a gunslinger. The one thing about him, he's just boom or bust is what I've read and what I've watched. I watched his highlights the other day. He can throw a pretty ball. He's going to wow you with his arm. He does make all the throws. And he was a highly rated kid, sought after all the big schools, Bama, Georgia, everybody at a high school, top 60 kid. Um, you know, those are 50-50 guys. They don't always pan out. The one thing I will say is he can throw the deep ball. He can throw a nice out route. He can throw it, hit the sideline. Throws a good slant. From what I saw, really struggles throwing the ball over the middle, it looked like I said, and throwing into, he doesn't read the defense well at times. So hopefully he can improve on that. And like I said, we're gonna have to really rely. This running game has to be excellent. This offensive line, these backs have to make plays. He's not going to be a willing runner, in my opinion. It's honestly a head scratcher for me because I feel like Billy. And this is a little bit of a misconception. A lot of people think he wants a running quarterback. There's nothing to really back that up besides AR, which wasn't his guy. Most of his other quarterbacks weren't super dual threat. His guy at Louisiana was a little bit of a dual threat running back or quarterback, but not an all-out runner. I mean, he throws the ball a lot. This passing game has got to develop. They've got to get more creative with the route combo and the route tree. It was very rudimentary, elementary, high schoolish game set up with these orbit motions and stuff. This offense has got to develop and progress and take a level up. And I'm sure y'all have heard Gator Nation preach that it was very basic offense. I think he just wants to run the ball. The running game is definitely elite. The way he designs the runs, that's not a problem. Strickland came on the other day and said that he's always self-evaluating and self-tuning, basically the way he does things. Let's hope he can reflect on this year and look in the mirror and make the necessary changes on his staff as far as the offensive coordinator stuff goes, or at least, let his offense evolve a little bit and progress, add some wrinkles in there. Like I said, I do think we see the tight end more involved. Special teams wise, I know they're looking for a return guy. They were looking at a guy at ASU. This would be another terrible take. Guy lost his job as a return man. Put up some big numbers, but just made a ton of terrible decisions and bad mistakes that cost ASU. And again, he's from ASU, lost his spot, never got on the field as a safety. I really hope they don't take this kid. I don't think he's worthy of a roster spot in Florida. But right now, that's pretty much all the news I got. Like I said, there's a lot of positive in there. Still down on the quarterback tape, but I'm really excited about the new pickups. Really excited about this high school class and what they're going to bring to the table. Next year's expectations again, probably get to a bowl game, 6 wins would be probably a good year with what I see right now. Again, this could all change. It depends. We're going to be patient, give it time. Um, but it's a long rebuild. Strickland came on the other day and said as much that this is built for the long haul. My only concern is what I want to see is development. I want to see the offense improve, the play calling improve, game management, game time decisions. That's what we should look for as in along with also adding another win, maybe like 7, 8 wins next year would be really nice for us as fans. Um, I think we should expect that. That's what should be happening. We shouldn't be repeating 6 wins next year, but that's what it looks like right now. So, again, it's a long term rebuild, but there's not going to be a rebuild, guys, without some kind of development, progress, and success. NIL has changed the world of bump classes. This class was a disappointment as far as the bump class goes. Realistically, Florida to compete for SEC titles, national championships, needed to be top five, right? We all know that. The data's there. Everything backs that up. You look at the teams in the playoff. The playoff is expanding in year three of Billy's tenure. And I think he's looking at that because where we're at, this roster is still going to be a top 15 talented roster. Um, if he plays up to that potential, that's a top 15 team, right? So in year three, that's a playoff spot. A 12-team playoff, you can get inside the top 12, you're in the playoffs. I think Billy's looking at that. I would be happy if Florida can get back to just winning 10 plus games a year, get in that 12-team playoff in year three, and stay in that picture consistently. I think that's the new kind of expectation, or where Florida realistically can go going forward, unless next year's 24 class could be top three in the country. If we're able to do that, we're trending that way, but there's still a long way to go to even worry about that. Um, you know, the year after and the following year, so we're talking about 5 years now with him at Florida. That if you build off that class with another top three, you could get back to being a national title contender. But right now, I think realistically, we're looking at next year just trying to show some progress, add another win to the record, win the bowl game for once. Um, and then year three, we should be talking about being in the playoff, and being ranked, finishing the year ranked inside the top 15, top 12, and making a run. I don't see Florida, in year three getting far in the playoff. But again, I'm getting a little long winded here. I think after that, the potential's there. So I am super excited about what we do have. There's a lot of positive there. I do want to talk about, oh, yeah, one of the guys did comment. He said, I want to know, breakout players we'll talk about for the spring. I already mentioned some of these guys that I'm excited about. The young guys, Denson, Jakeem Jackson. I would look for him in the spring. Still got some guys on the roster, coming back. I think Yuma Million's a guy to look out for to have a breakout season. Tyreek Sapp, I think, this guy was real strong, stocky kid. I could see him being really, really, really strong next season and strong side defensive end. I look for Christopher McClellan to have a big spring, put on some good weight, good muscle mass. He's a little not cut, like not leaned out. He needs to lean out just a little bit, build some raw strength. He was kind of just a little bit softer this year, but played really well. So I look for him to really bulk up and look chiseled come spring. He's a guy that I'm excited about on the inside right there. Um, let's see. I think Caleb Banks, that transfer guy, I think next year you're going to see him put up some big numbers. I think Cameron Jackson's going to be a run stuffer and really hold the line up there in the middle. Um, Kind of like a Bullard, at Florida. I could see him being that type of player for Florida. Um, Offensive line, and there's not a lot there that I'm super excited about right now. Austin Barber is my favorite offensive lineman. I think he's going to be the best of the group next season. Look for him to have a big spring. And I'm going to make a bold prediction here, guys. So I want to say that Max Brown comes in the spring and really shocks some people. I'm gonna say he has a really good spring camp and pushes for that number 2 spot. Potentially, I'm not gonna say starting, but right now, let's just say I think he's gonna be in that mix for that number 2 spot and possibly push for starting role at some point. And the reason I say that, I'm not there, but Billy has some type of plan in his head. I'm thinking that he likes what he has in that room, and I don't think it's Miller. I just can't buy that. I think Mertz come in to compete and push, but who is it then? It's got to be Max Brown, guys. Who else could it be? I think that it might be Max Brown, that they see a lot of potential upside there. If you go back and watch his high school film, kid looked really good. Not good competition, but really excited about that kid and his ceiling. I think there's more there. I watched his release tighten up in some of his training videos, and I think some people are going to be caught off guard a little bit this spring when they see him play. Um, Running back, again, we nothing newsworthy there. Those guys are both going to play well. Montrell and ETN, we all know that one of them. My prediction next year, we're going to have one of those guys hit 800 and something yards again rushing. But I believe Florida will have a 1,000-yard back next year. I'm calling it now. ETN hits 1,000 yards, and Montrell ends up about 800 and something. And I think Montrell has more touchdowns, but ETN has 1,000 yards rushing next year and double-digit touchdowns, because it's going to be a two-headed back show. Those guys had some carries taken away from with Naquan the first 3, 4 games. So this year with just them two, heck, they might both get close to that 1,000-yard mark. I don't see two people doing it, but it's going to be close. I look for Scooby Williams at linebacker, putting on some size and really playing well. I think Shamar James is another guy that we should all be really excited about. These guys, once they add some mass and some size this season, they can get sideline to sideline. I think that they're going to take a massive step forward at the linebacker spot. Shamar's a guy that was like, Alabama wanted him so bad. This kid is super talented. I know he struggled a lot this year. He was thrown in the fire. Linebacker's a really hard spot to play as a true freshman. But guys, get ready, because I think it's going to be the Shamar show next year. I think he's going to play really, really well, be a really good run stopper, and be more physical. When you're undersized and you get hit like you do in the SEC, it makes you a little tentative. When these guys add that strength and mass on, and they realize they are as strong as or stronger than a lot of these guys they're going up against, they're going to play more physical. They're going to get better. Um, so that's my news out there. Look for some news to pop. Some more transfer names to pop up as committed to the Gators. Probably next Monday or Tuesday. That's when the timeline is that I'm thinking for some more names to pop up. So just be looking out for that. Appreciate you guys. Go Gators. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Sorry this one was a little long, but I had to get you guys all caught up from the week. All right, y'all have a good one. Thank you.